Breaking news, it is significant. It is the story we've been talking about all day, Manchester United. So, someone has emerged from the pack as the possible next manager. Tell us.
Well, one of the leading candidates we've been talking about today for the United job is the sporting manager Ruben Amorim. And in the last few minutes, we've been able to confirm that Manchester United are in talks with him. Now, this is a development that was first reported this evening by David Ornstein in The Athletic. Now, Ruben Amorim is a young manager who's doing a great job at Sporting. Lots of other clubs have been interested in appointing him as well. For instance, he was linked with the West Ham job, the Liverpool job. There has even been talk that he is a potential Manchester City manager one day. But we can confirm this evening that United definitely are in talks with him.
All right, so why him? What is it about Amorim that has attracted them?
Well, just have a look at the Portuguese league table at the moment. I think Sporting have got a 100% record. They've won all their games. They're 6-7 points clear at the top. They won the title under Amorim last season as well. He is one of the best young coaches in European football at the moment. And it's not just United who have been interested in signing him. Now, one of the stumbling blocks I would have thought to this deal being done is the fact that he's got this release clause in his contract. Sporting actually had to pay a big release clause by Portuguese league standards to get him, and his contract has got a release clause of about 10 million euros in it. Now, if you think about the fact that United need to comply with the Premier League's profitability and sustainability rules, they also have to factor in the fact that they need to pay off Erik Ten Hag.
Who's just had a new contract.
Well, an extension. So there's talk that they may have to pay him something in the region of £15 million. Now, Amorim has got a release clause, I think, of around 10 million euros. So United would need to spend not just to sack Erik Ten Hag, but also to bring in Ruben Amorim. Look, he's a very exciting young coach, plays brilliant football, but some critics and detractors will say, OK, all well and good, but what he's achieved has been over a very short period of time in Portuguese football. And with all due respect, Portuguese football, of course, look at all the brilliant Portuguese managers and players in the Premier League and all over European football. The level of the Portuguese league is not quite at the level of some of the other big leagues in European football. But then look at all the brilliant Portuguese managers. It looks like Ruben Amorim could be the next big Portuguese manager, and United are in talks with him.
Right, 10 to 12, Ten Hag was sacked. We've just gone past 10 to 7 in the evening. Does this mean United had a plan all along?
So you are saying that this was all lined up, that they had somebody else teed up, and then once that was all sorted, they told Erik Ten Hag, see you later, because with someone else is coming in.
Yeah, because it's a weird weekend to do it when United was so unlucky and played so well in the first half and got a dodgy penalty given against them at the end of the game. OK,
I don't have concrete information that that is what has happened, but what I can tell you is that all clubs have succession plans in place. We also know that during the summer, United were talking to other managers. We know over the past couple of weeks that they have been sounding out other candidates. And for instance, my colleague at Sky Germany, Florian Plettenberg, he has been reporting that concrete contact was made with Amorim's camp over the past 2 or 5 weeks from Manchester United. So I think there's an element of truth in what you say. That's just the way football works. OK, so if United get this guy, how long will he get before the honeymoon period is over? Because United seem to have smaller windows than other clubs. I think whoever comes in to Manchester United, their objective will be to get United in the top 4 at the end of this season.
That's a long way away.
That was the objective for Erik Ten Hag. That will be the objective for Ruben Amorim or whoever takes over. United are not expecting to win the title anytime soon. It's going to take a while, a couple of years at least. They've got a target to win it, I think, in 2028 and the 150th year anniversary. Amorim, I think, on paper, looks the real deal. He looks like a brilliant young head coach, and also the pedigree of clubs who've been trying to get him as well. Clubs like Liverpool, for instance, being linked with the Manchester City job as well, means that you're a very, very good manager. But if United get him, it will be a big, big coup, but I think he will have a lot to prove because a lot of very, very good managers have got the United job and have not been able to follow up on the success that Sir Alex Ferguson had.
Well, as Kaveh mentioned there, the news about Amorim was first reported by The Athletic. I'm very happy to say we can speak now to their Manchester United reporter, Laurie Whitwell, who was one of those names attributed to this story. Laurie, a very good evening to you. Busy day for you, I'm sure, from start to finish so far, and certainly not finished yet. Just bring us up to date with your very latest understanding of where we are currently at in regards with Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, I think Kaveh summed up very well. There are talks taking place between Manchester United and Sporting Lisbon over the compensation package, the release clause. It's a little bit difficult to untangle that entirely. But yeah, 10 million euros, we believe, is around the cost that it might take for United to get Ruben Amorim out of his contract at Sporting Lisbon. And so there is a hope, at least, or an expectation, I think, from people in Portugal as well, that this could be concluded fairly swiftly. Ruud van Nistelrooy is the interim manager at the moment. United have got a game against Leicester in the Carabao Cup on Wednesday and then Chelsea in the Premier League on Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see if United can get this deal done and get Amorim in place for those games, more likely the Chelsea one, I suppose. But it might take a little bit of time to untangle. But yeah, I think the fact that United have made their target very clear and they are going for it in a very sort of professional way, I think certainly is a little bit in contrast to the managerial merry-go-round we heard at the end of last season, where a lot of names were spoken to, a lot of reports were made. This feels like it's a lot slicker operation.
Yeah, Laura, I wonder, what does it say about the fact that there's already a candidate being spoken to and the speed that Manchester United are moving? It suggests that whilst people might have been shocked about Erik ten Hag, they do actually have a plan.
Yes, certainly. I mean, there was an ExCo meeting, an executive committee meeting earlier this month where Erik ten Hag's position was discussed. You had Sir Jim Ratcliffe there as the co-owner, Joel Glazer, the executive team at Manchester United. So I think they would have probably at that point spoken about the potential succession plan. But that doesn't sort of discount the fact that I think they are moving quickly today. So, they obviously want to keep something like this under wraps for as long as possible. And I'm not sure exactly when talks will have first taken place, but you can be sure that, I think soundings out would have happened because the situation around Erik ten Hag was clearly going in one direction. I think he felt certainly strongly, I was there in the London Stadium on Sunday, that he felt he could turn it around still and he had that confidence. But I think ultimately people were expecting this to happen. And whilst it might be a surprise that it happened after a game where United played pretty well, certainly first half, should have scored 2 or 3 goals, and it was a controversial VAR decision that made them lose the game. I think ultimately the board have been looking at this as a potential for a while yet.
Do you think there was anyone else that they thought about, Laurie, in this circumstance? We know that there were a lot of talks in the summer when they decided to stick with Erik ten Hag, but I'm thinking that possibly one of those names that was mentioned a lot in the summer was Thomas Tuchel. He obviously got the England job. Do you think that affected what Manchester United have done now?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Tuchel was a really fascinating case because certainly he was the one that they were going to go for if they were going to replace Erik ten Hag at the end of last season. I think they got on to discussing financials, but ultimately it didn't happen, whether that was because he didn't feel the environment that he was going to go into was sufficient, whether he wanted to actually enter work again after Bayern Munich, whether that was a factor in his mind, also whether United got a bit of cold feet as well. I'm not sure exactly why that broke down, but certainly some people around it were telling me that was then a dead situation, and the whole sort of prospect of England coming for him earlier this month wasn't really a factor in United's decision making because they'd already discounted that as an eventuality. I don't know the exact truth of the matter, but I don't think that Tuchel was a real consideration this time round.
Laurie, this is a man who is very highly sought after, has been linked with the Chelsea job. He was in negotiations with West Ham, linked with Manchester City as well. Why is he so highly sought after? And what can Manchester United fans expect from him if he is the man to take over from Ten Hag?
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly been linked by a few, and Carvey's right to mention the Man City sort of link, because you look at Hugo Viana going over there from Sporting Lisbon, the sporting director there. There was perhaps an assumption that he would then return to Sporting Lisbon to go for Amorim if Pep Guardiola decides to leave at the end of the season. And also Liverpool had talks with him, didn't they? Although they then moved on to Arne Slot. There was West Ham, very public sort of approach by West Ham that I think maybe on reflection he probably didn't handle the best. But clearly this one's been done with a lot more secrecy, or at least the start of the conversation has. In terms of his football, three at the back is predominantly what he plays, but I don't think that necessarily, he would have to fit that onto Manchester United. And in any case, I think their sort of squad perhaps suits a back three in certain games, maybe. But yeah, attractive brand of football. He's won 2 titles in Portugal, which I think is a real sign of what United were after. Somebody who has won already. They're not sort of expecting him to try and become a winner at Manchester United. And he's a young coach. A lot of people speak very highly of him. So I think if United do manage to pull it off, I think it will be regarded as a bit of a coup. Although, as we've seen before with other managers, Erik ten Hag was seen as maybe a bit of a coup when he came. He'd done really good work at Ajax. This club is a very difficult one to manage, so we shouldn't really expect it just to be an easy fix.
Laurie, I want to pick you up on something that you and both Carvey have said in the last few minutes, and that's the link with Hugo Viana, who's worked very closely with Amorim to much success at Sporting. He's going to be director of football at Manchester City next year. Could there be a late twist in this? We don't know what's going to happen with Pep Guardiola next season as of yet. His contract's up. We don't know if he'll stay on or not. Is there any risk here for Man United fans that he could be taken by their closest rivals?
I mean, possibly, but he'd have to wait right until next summer. And even then, we don't know for sure that Guardiola will leave. I mean, I've heard the same things as many other people, that this is seen as the final season for him. Chiqui Begiristain stepping down. What's going to happen with Ferran Soriano? So is this the moment that Pep finally says that he departs? But anyone that knows him will say that he is his own man, and he can change his mind, and he kind of leaves it late to let people know. I mean, I suppose he would want a good succession plan in place if he is to depart, and maybe he would already have said that at this point. I'm sure that Ruben Amorim is very aware of the situation at Man City, and if he had any doubts about whether he could be in charge there, he might have a second thought. But then again, the same thing is that Manchester United are a huge club. There's great appeal for these coaches to come in and implant their ideas onto a club and make it a success again. It's a huge bone of success if they can do that. Whereas I suppose at Man City, you'd be taking over from a guy who's won 5 titles in 6 years and has won everything you could possibly win. So there's a different level of expectation there, I suppose.
So just a question then, Laurie, on Erik ten Hag. I mean, a lot of people, I suppose, won't be shocked that he's gone, but perhaps shocked at the timing of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when they gave him the contract extension in the summer, the hope was that it would work out well, and they could have a season where they, he worked in a different environment than what he'd worked at before. They certainly weren't anticipating having to dismiss him at this stage of the season, 9 Premier League games into the campaign. But when they're 14th in the Premier League, they haven't won a game in Europe yet. You can understand them having a reflection and thinking maybe we need to make a change now. And I mean, yeah, losing away to West Ham, a poor West Ham team, I have to say, it isn't great, even though they were the better team and they should have won the game. So I think that, I think he will say that he's won 2 trophies at Man United. He's certainly tried to instill discipline. I think he's handled himself with great decorum. Even yesterday in the London Stadium, he didn't, attack the officials as such. He kind of just said the process isn't right, and I don't agree with it. So, I mean, maybe people could criticise him for that, and they want more passion and fire from him. But I think he generally was pretty consistent with his message, and he was very resolute in his belief that he could turn things around, even to the very end. But I think you can understand the executive board having a different interpretation.
Laurie, you've covered Manchester United very closely under Erik ten Hag's reign. Just looking at it on paper, it's interesting because finished 3rd in his first season, won the League Cup, reached FA Cup final, quarter-finals, Europa Leagues. Finished 8th, obviously very disappointing last season, but won the FA Cup, finished bottom of the Champions League group. That was a disappointment as well, and we know that this season isn't going to plan whatsoever. But there seems to be a lot of success in there as well. On paper, it's not the worst that we've seen. But where do you think it went wrong ultimately for Ten Hag?
It's the form in the league, isn't it? I mean, the injuries last season really did affect things. He also had a style that would, certain players didn't respond well to, right? So you had the issues with Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, other players, Casemiro, Rafael Varane, I think Marcus Rashford. Certain friction was there. He will say that at a club as kind of unruly as Man United, it's so huge, so many pundits around speaking on it, opinions, and that's difficult to kind of get a control of, and that's what he was trying to do. And certainly Sir Alex Ferguson, ruled Manchester United absolutely, and I think that's what Erik ten Hag was trying to instill, but ultimately results were not good enough in the league form, which is where really you're measured. I mean, I think certainly fans will always thank him for those two special days at Wembley, winning the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup in particular, beating Man City in the final, a really memorable occasion for a lot of fans. But really you want the club to be playing good football, to be, challenging for the title, and they were nowhere near it. So, 2.5 seasons in, I think it's a fair time to make a reflection on that. And yeah, I mean, maybe Erik ten Hag will go away somewhere else and be a success. He was certainly a success at Ajax, and I won't bet against him doing so again. But you can see why they felt like they wanted to make a change.
Frank aside, let's have a look at the possible runners and riders. Take us through them, Kaveh.
Well, one of the names in the frame is Ruben Amorim. He is somebody who has been linked with a lot of big jobs. We know West Ham were interested, Liverpool were interested in him as well. He's doing a very good job at Sporting. Couple of problems I foresee with United making a move for him is he's got a release clause. I think it's at least something like £15 million. And we also know that he is somebody who potentially in the future could become a Manchester City manager. We know that City's next director of football is going to be Hugo Viana, who's at Sporting at the moment. So I'm just thinking maybe Ruben Amorim is thinking, look, if I'm going to go to the Premier League, let's wait for the really, really big job, the job that is going to be replacing Pep Guardiola. Of course, we don't know that Pep Guardiola is going to leave any time soon, but he is a name in the frame. He's been talking today, actually, about the United job. Didn't really have much to say. He was asked about, what is happening at United, Erik ten Hag losing his job. And he basically said, look, I knew this question was coming. I'm not getting involved in this. I'm very happy at Sporting.
How times have changed when people are hanging around for the City job and not the United one.
Manchester United are working on a deal to appoint Sporting Lisbon's Ruben Amorim as their new head coach. Sources in Portugal, speaking anonymously as they're not authorised to discuss the matter, have told The Athletic the 39-year-old is open to taking up the opportunity after Erik ten Hag was sacked earlier on Monday. United are ready to pay the £10 million release clause in his contract, with the two clubs in talks to finalise a deal that could see Ruud van Nistelrooy take interim charge before Amorim's arrival. Amorim has emerged as one of Europe's most sought-after young managers after a run of success with the Portuguese club, with United moving quickly after making him their #1 target to be ten Hag's replacement. He was in contention to replace Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool before Arne Slot ultimately got the job, and also held talks over replacing David Moyes at West Ham, before later apologising and calling the meeting a mistake. He won the Primeira Liga title in 2021 and again last season, while also winning the Taça da Liga, the Portuguese League Cup, on 2 occasions with Sporting and a third time with his previous club, Braga. He has also built a reputation as a coach known for fielding young players and improving individual player performance. A midfielder in his playing career, Amorim was a 3-time league champion with Benfica and won 14 caps for the Portugal national team. Ten Hag was appointed in April 2022 and went on to lead the club to the League Cup title in his first season in charge, as well as the FA Cup in May. The former Ajax head coach was retained as United manager in the summer following an end-of-season review by the club's hierarchy, but only after they had sounded out potential replacements, including now England head coach Thomas Tuchel, Brentford head coach Thomas Frank and Ipswich Town manager Kieran McKenna. United returned to Premier League action with a home game with Chelsea on Sunday, before meetings with 3 of the current bottom 5 in Leicester City, Ipswich Town and Everton over the next month. They also have 2 Europa League games, against PAOK and Bodo Glimt. They currently sit 21st in the New Look European Competitions League phase after failing to win any of their opening 3 matches. Ruben Amorim is a manager that has been linked with his fair share of jobs in recent months, and you can understand why the 39-year-old is in demand. Amorim guided Sporting to a First League title for 19 years in 2021-22, followed it up with another victory last season, and has 9 wins from 9, with Sporting sitting pretty at the top of the Primera Liga this season. Even accounting for the quality imbalance of the Primera Liga, a side who boasted, statistically, one of the best attacks chance creation, 95 out of 99, and the best defences chance prevention, 97 out of 99, shows that their manager must be having a positive effect. Stylistically, Amorim's 3-4-3, or more specifically, a 3-4-2-1, is built on high possession, flexible attacking approaches, and a strong defensive foundation. Last season's arrival of striker Victor Gyökeres led to a more transitional, direct style of attack, patient attack, 49 out of 99. It also highlights Amorim's ability to maximize his style by adapting to the skill sets of his players. Amorim has shown his desire to bring young talent into the first team, including Goncalo Inacio, Mateus Nunes, Nuno Mendes, and Ousmane Diamond, and has improved the team's quality with the resources at his disposal. Bruno Fernandes moved to Manchester United a little over a month before Amorim's appointment, but Mendes to Paris Saint-Germain, Nunes Wolverhampton Wanderers, Pedro Porro Tottenham Hotspur, Manuel Ugarte also to PSG, and João Palhinha Fulham are among the talented players whom Amorim has improved before being sold for high fees. Title-winning credentials? Yes. Fielding young players? Yes. Improving individual player performance? Yes. There are reasons why Amorim has been so highly sought after among Europe's elite.